Today, see how Tanium gives you cross-platform visibility and control of digital certificates.
2 years ago on this show, you saw a demo of Tanium Certificate Manager capabilities. And today we are back to look at all the improvements since then.
Tanium's core value has always been visibility and control as well as speed, of course. At release, Certificate Manager had visibility. Now we're going to look at the control aspect. Please help us welcome Laura for her first time on the show, inaugural. Laura, please introduce yourself.
Thanks, guys, for having me. Hey, everybody. My name is Laura Iliescu. I've been with Tanium almost 4 years now. I'm based out of Manhattan, and I am the PM on Certificate Manager. And today, I'm super excited to walk you guys through some of the new features in GA today. And yeah, look forward to it.
Laura, thanks for joining us on the show today. And I know we talked about a lot of this 2 years ago, but some people are new customers since then. Could you catch us up and just tell us what was the impetus for the module to begin with?
Basically, we had customers coming to us telling us that they are tracking certificates in an Excel. And that obviously is not ideal for many reasons. Chief among them, it's hard to keep track of what's expiring and when. So since we're already on the endpoint, we thought we have a unique opportunity to give them, at minimum, better visibility into their certificates. And so most of our early use cases leaned heavily into visibility, but I'm happy to say that this year we rolled out the ability to make a certificate replacement with improvements to come that is now in GA. And so I'd love to focus on that new capability with you guys today.
Yes, Laura, so excited. I've only dealt with certificate management a few times. I used to be much more disorganized, so you can imagine when I was trying to do things like this, I had 19 different guides pulled up trying to make sure I didn't mess anything up. So please, could you share with us today, what kinds of certificates does Certificate Manager have visibility into?
Totally. So let's talk scope. So today we are purely talking X509 certificates. We are basically auditing any SSL TLS wrapped service. And in the module, as you'll see in the demo today, we tend to distinguish between two types of certificates. The first one being listening service certificates. That's basically what the industry calls a service cert. And then the second being at-rest certificates. That's what we have found on disk. And I'll go ahead and show you guys later where exactly we're looking for those certificates.
Yeah, that's perfect because it's a perfect segue because I was also going to ask how is Certificate Manager scanning for both of those things?
Awesome. So when it comes to the first set, listening service certificates, what we're doing is we're running a port scan. So let me be clear that a port scan in this case is basically the device is looking at itself. I've had a TAM sort of liken that to looking in the mirror. So we're not doing network scans. It's not an authenticated scan. The scope of certs here that I didn't mention earlier, Alex, is it involves whatever the Tanium client is on. So if it's on that device, that is the sort of certificates that we can see. So we're not yet talking about, call it like internet facing, like unmanaged devices where the agent does not exist. So when it comes to the port scans, if you choose to enable them, you don't have to. But if you do, then essentially the device is port scanning itself. So it's iterating on a port to see what version of TLS it supports, what cipher suites it supports, and then we're pulling that data back. And basically, we're making that TCP connection. Then we're doing various different TLS, SSL handshakes to see what's there. And we'll do that on Windows, Mac, and Linux if you enable it. And then for all other certificates that we refer to as at rest, we're not discovering them by a port scan. Instead, we look in specific places on disk, such as the Windows certificate store on Windows devices. And on Linux devices, there's a couple predefined file paths we look at, etc, PKI, and etc SSL. And we're excited to expand upon those in a future release, as well as allow for custom locations. So if you don't want to opt into port scanning, you don't have to. You can selectively exclude certain ports altogether and scan the rest of them if you wanted. And that is all a setting that you can configure inside the module.
That sounds so much better than spreadsheets. We've already got the client there. Hey, let's take a look. What's on disk? What's talking on the network? So once we get that visibility, where does the control come in?
Yeah, so as the name implies, certificate manager. So if you saw a certificate that was expiring or expired, you can now take action on that inside certificate manager. You can perform the whole gamut when you think about that linear process of initiating, submitting that certificate signing request. You can generate the CSR within Tanium and submit it. Then when it comes to the sort of next step, because we don't yet have any integrations with a CA, you would download that CSR and take it to your certificate authority of choice. When you get it back, you'll come into Tanium, upload it. We will deploy it for you, essentially distributing the new certificate and private key out on the endpoints that had the original cert. And then we'll help you perform the next steps of restarting, stopping, and configuring the service to verify that. And then you'll finalize it and you're done.
You've got this huge ability to now replace that certificate anywhere in the environment you find it. And so often we hear from customers visibility on anything in IT is never complete. And when people install this, I'm guessing, what have you heard from customers when they get this going in their environment? What are some of the early feedback?
So for one, I think it's a net benefit that you don't need to perform a network scan. Some of these other point tools I've heard are harder to set up. With Tanium, though, because we're already on the endpoint, within a few hours, you're already getting data back in Certificate Manager. It's super easy to start seeing information. And so that's one. I would say two, I love when I'm on demos and I'm showing this to customers, folks. I remember I had a lady tell me, wow, I didn't even realize that we had self-signed certs in our environment. And that is something that you'll see is very easily and quickly surfaced to you. There's a lot of sort of certificate risks, I would say, around short keys, hashing algorithms that we surface that you may not realize, wow, I still have SHA-1 out there, MD5. And so there's a lot of nifty little use cases we'll talk about as I scroll through the overview page. But folks have been excited about the ability to take action. That's been highly requested. So I would say that, that's been something we've been working on for a while and we're very excited.
As you're talking, I'm thinking about so many use cases I've seen over the years. Self-signed certs is a fantastic example. I mean, we've all done it. It's okay. My name is Ashley McGlone. I've used a self-signed cert. You're installing that application in your environment for the first time. And when we go to prod, we'll fix this and make it right later. But for now, we just need to get this working, and you put this in the dev environment with a self-signed cert. And I know nobody watching the show would ever promote a server into production from dev. You just wouldn't ever do that, right? And end up with a self-signed cert in production. Or self gone. I mean, sometimes we have turnover in our IT departments, and the person that knows where all those certificates are buried, they're no longer here. So now we've got this ultimate inventory tool. Thank you. Well, I'm eager to see it. Can you give us a demo?
Awesome. I'd love to do that. So let's first start with our overview page. So when you first come into the module, this is where you'll land. Note that this overview page is out of the box. So it's configured through the sensors and the data pulls that we get for Certificate Manager. So every data point you see here, you can create reports and dashboards outside of this overview page, customized however you want. So this is where you'll get cursory information at a glance. High level, you'll see things like the number of certificates in your environment, the number of endpoints in question, the listening service certificates. Now, as you scroll down, we immediately show you what certificates are upcoming for expiration, right? You probably want to know, okay, where do I need to take action? This is also the same section where you'll see the sort of risks that I mentioned earlier. Short keys, and I'll just hover over these so you can see which ones we're referring to. Weak algorithms, and as you called out, self-signed certificates, Ashley, this is sort of where you would tell Tanium what CAs you want to consider as trusted. So that is set from within the settings here in the module. And then we'll surface for you what is actually authorized, what is unauthorized, so a CA you don't trust, and then what is self-signed.
And the
Now,
risks, I mean, this is that 3 a.m. call that nobody wants, right? Hey, why is our company website is down because the certificate expired, right? I mean, that's the classic scenario you think of. But now, all these the short and short key length and all those types of risks are there. So yeah, this is great to be able to see this in one place.
Yeah, I don't have to dig for an Excel at 3 a.m. I totally agree with that. So the other cool thing that I want to call out while I have y'all is the cipher section. So this is our sort of ciphers panel. We use IANA standards to check ciphers against. So we will show you where you have listening services accepting unapproved ciphers and the cipher suites available on each service for all endpoints. Hopefully this one would decline over time, that you have fewer unapproved ciphers in your environment. And so that is pretty neat. And I've had customers call that out as something that's really interesting to them. I do want to touch briefly on PQC. This is something that customers have been asking about, curious about. It's something that we are interested in as well. So we're having a lot of calls around that. So if you're interested in discussing post-quantum with me, please reach out. Um, when we get to all certificates, I think that kind of bears some explanation here. So how is that different from what you saw? All certificates is going to include those sort of at-rest certificates. So not just the service certificates, but where we found certificates on disk as well. And so again, if you're asking, where do y'all look? Like, what are the sources? One more time, certificate sources. So if it's Windows, we'll look at the cert store. We'll look at specific file locations on Linux. And then if the port scanning is enabled, and you don't have to, but if you choose to, we'll show you those as well. And I have had folks say, I don't even know like what CAs I have in my environment. Well, we answer that for you. Here are your top 10 CAs that are issuing certificates today. And
This reminds me,
Mhm.
when we did this 2 years ago, one of the top use cases, because you normally think about certificates on the server side, but clients have certificates for Wi-Fi access and VPN access, and sometimes updating VPN certs is kind of tricky. So, I mean, to have this visibility across all the endpoints, all the workstations, then the travel laptops, that's huge.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. And just to clarify, when you talk about like those VPN certs, that's what we're classifying as at rest here, just so everyone's clear on the nomenclature. But I agree with you, Ashley. I think the fact that we're on the endpoint is awesome because we could see a lot, okay? And my goal is wherever you see a certificate, put it in Tanium. So that's why we're actively expanding on the sources. And the next time I come on your show, I'll have a lot more to show there. Let me go ahead and show you guys the inventory because that is net new. So the inventory is basically taking the prior page you saw on the overview and flipping it on its head. So this is your certificate focused view. So for a given certificate, let's say I want to toggle onto, let's say, listening service certificate. And if you click the flyout, you'll get a lot of detail here, pulling things like the common name, subject, and you'll have the PEM file here. And we're also going to show you a bit more information around things like um, IP addresses, like the endpoints that we found it on, the ports that are listening for the connections that use that certificate, and the server name. And the neat thing about this inventory page is this sort of serves as our launch pad for where you're going to start to perform our new set of actions. In this case, starting a replacement and downloading a certificate. Let's say you wanted to download the PEM file and take it to OpenSSL to run it through for the details. You can do that, or you can initiate a replacement directly here. The only stipulation is we have to be able to find the private key. So if Tanium can locate the private key, you'll be able to start the replacement on that certificate. So with that, I'd love to kind of show you guys, let's walk through a certificate that's expired and how I would use Certificate Manager to replace it. Does
You
that
know
work?
what,
Yeah.
real quick, before we do that, I just want to go back to this list and
Yeah.
just point out these filters. You've got listening services, you've got expiration in days. Wow. So all this filtering. And then if you expand the little filter box, you can actually put in the subject name to filter for a particular application in your environment that you're looking at. You know, all this rich detail, because there's going to be hundreds or thousands of certificates listed here, and you can slice and dice to your heart's content. Wow.
That's right. And you guys know certificates have a lot of data. So there's a lot that we get back. So we try to be intentional about what we think customers are first going to be concerned about. A lot of the times that is around expiration. So you'll see me today as I initiate a replacement. I'm going to filter for the name just because I know it off the top of my head for the purposes of this demo. But certainly there are other ways you can kind of see, okay, let's see like what already expired within the last 14 days. That is a listening service certificate. that has a private key. There's one. Let me first kind of set the stage for how replacements work. So I'm going to pick this certificate that's expired on an IIS web server, and I will be replacing this with a CA certificate for today's purposes. So once you hit start replacement, you will be taken to this screen that pre-populates certificate details like the certificate common name, the organization unit, any subject alternative names, and the key length and algorithm. And you can edit all of that here if you wanted to change something about the details. You can customize every field. Let me go ahead and show that. So you can customize every field down to things like additional DNS names, additional IP addresses. You can change, we'll default to whatever the current algorithm key length is, but you can change it to any of the RSA key links that we have uploaded here in the dropdown, or you can use a little elliptic curve if you want to up the security of it. There's a number of different elliptic curves in this dropdown. We support 3 NIST curves. And so all of this is with the goal of helping you generate that CSR directly from within Tanium. So before you are able to generate that CSR, we asked you to select a source endpoint. So if there were multiple endpoints that had the existing certificate that's expired, let's say a wildcard certificate spread across multiple machines, you could pick any one of those endpoints appearing in this list. They'll all be listed here. In my case, guys, for this demo environment, n equals 1. I have just one endpoint. But the full list would be here, and you can choose any one to initiate the CSR on. So I'm going to roll with this. There's only one endpoint. It makes it easy. And I'm going to hit submit. I don't want to change anything about what's presented here. So one last preview, of course. Everything looks good. Let's generate the CSR. Now, watch how this status flips from the CSR being requested to the CSR is now available. Perfect. What now happens is you will want to download this and take it to your certificate authority of choice. Tanium today doesn't have an integration with a certificate authority yet. So this step is manual. And before we go ahead and do that together, I want to first explain what you're seeing here. You generated the CSR. Now you land on the replacement page. This page is it becomes your best friend once you've made that CSR request. We're mid-replacement, right? We've submitted the CSR. Now this is progressing us from step to step. The next step is distribution, followed by configuration, and then finalization. So that's how I would read this from left to right. And you'll get statuses along the way, as you'll see live, that sort of indicate what step you're at. How would you read the rest of this page? Let's go top to bottom. So we're going to start with some information on the source certificate. That's the original. You can view the original. And we've now populated this section, the certificate request, right? This is where you'll be able to download or, let's say, copy to clipboard that I'm going to do in a moment. Once I come back to Tanium with my newly issued certificate, I will upload it here. So in a moment, you'll see that this has populated with the details of that new certificate. Lastly, we have distribution status and then configuration results. So this is mirroring what you've seen at the top. What we're doing is progressing you from step to step. Let me just briefly explain distribution. This is where Tanium distributes your new certificate and private key out to all of the endpoints that had the original certificate. So before I get to distribution, I need to upload the new cert. That means that I'm going to go ahead and I can either download or copy to clipboard. For our purposes, I'm going to copy this to clipboard. And I'm going to use our internal CA to issue the certificate for today's purposes. But again, let me emphasize, this is where you would go to a CA if you're out in the wild and do that yourself, as we don't have an integration currently. So I'm going to copy this to clipboard. And now I'm going to move over to our issuing CA. Let me request that certificate. I'm going to copy this in. Let's change that to custom web server, submit the request. And I will want the full chain. So let's go ahead and download that. So now that I've downloaded that request, I will want to come and upload this into Tanium. And let me pause here. What can you upload? So we support various different formats. And I think it's worth mentioning that, sometimes a CA will issue a bundle, or just the individual certificate. We will support both of those. So let's upload. What does uploading do? Uploading is basically staging that new replacement certificate and new private key on the endpoint. What's next is you'll still need to stop, restart the service, and verify it. You're basically going to need to unpack that certificate to where it needs to go. So if I look at my distribution status, this is now changed to complete because it's been distributed on the endpoint. The other place that you can tell and that you know that is in this section. The distribution status shows as complete, 100% one endpoint. As I mentioned earlier, now that I've uploaded that certificate, you're going to get the details on that replacement here. This is populated post-upload. So I've passed my distribution step. What comes next? Now I'm at the configuration step. I don't have any configuration in process. Configuration is where Tanium is going to help you author a package so that you can stop, restart, and verify the service. So what we've done here is we have created templates to help you do that. So there are two that you'll start off with, Windows and a non-Windows template. What you need to edit is simply to edit the script file within it. And there's a few lines of code. You can basically do whatever you want there, but as long as you're stopping and restarting and verifying that, we'll be able to pick up that new certificate is in use. So what I would do next, because I've done this before for IIS, I'm going to run the package that I have for IIS. So as soon as you have that Windows package and you edit the script file one time for a given service, you don't need to do that again. We're going to have the package here for you if you had that for Apache, Nginx, same thing. You do it one time and all of your packages are here for each service. So I have IIS done already. Obviously, I've done this demo a few times. So I'm going to go ahead and run the package now. So there's not much that I would change here, guys. I would suggest that you opt into the port scan if you're comfortable. This is how Tanium is going to show you, yes, this is successfully picking up the new certificate. And you would select the computer group to say where you want this package to go. For our purposes, I'm just going to say all Windows. You'll see n equals 1, given the demo environment that I'm in. But if you show the preview, you'll be able to see as this is loading up what endpoint this is on. Surely enough, that's the one I was looking to see there.
And to clarify there real quick, so that computer group target is a limiting group. It's not going to target every machine that's all Windows. It already knows the target machine, but this is just going to give you a limiting scope.
Correct. Tanium, we know on the back end, the endpoints in scope that had the original. So Tanium is doing that targeting in the background because we know what endpoints had the original that we need to swap out. So in my case, this is the only endpoint that had that n equals 1. So this looks right to me. And I would go ahead and I would run that package on this endpoint. Let's confirm that. So now configuration is running. So that new certificate is not yet out in the wild. It's working. Let me go ahead and show you what you'd see as my config results. I'm still showing the old certificate. That audit needs to run and it'll pick up the new certificate after it's complete and show me the results here. So at this point, what's after configuration? What's left is finalization. And finalization, we basically have an easy button for that. Finalization is like a cleanup stage for Tanium. We're cleaning out that intermediate sort of staging step. Now, there are two ways that you can do that. You can either manually force it with the button, or finalization is going to time out on its own. That is configurable. We default to 14 days. You can change that in the settings. So once the audit is complete, at that point, I would say, okay, let's go ahead and finalize this. For our purposes right now, the audit is still running, so it hasn't yet fully deployed out. But when it is, I would come back and finalize it just to clean up that intermediate staging step. And with that, once you hit finalize, that's the end of the process. You'll be able to verify that Tanium has picked up the new certificate in a couple spots. So you'll see here that configuration is complete and the new certificate is being picked up. The other place that you can check is on the inventory page.
Well, Laura, I remember from the earliest days in Tanium, we used to call these workbenches where we're doing the module page and all the work. This is truly a workbench. I mean, you've got the stages all laid out. It's almost like somebody who's really, they've got their workbench in their shop or their garage, and they've got the little containers where they put, here's the extra nuts and bolts from the project so I don't lose them, right? You've got everything in little boxes here to make everybody happy. What's Marie Kondo? Is that, like everything's got its little place, and it's in the right place with your certificates. And so we got the distribution, we got the configuration running, you got the finalize, the cleanup. We don't want to leave any private keys laying around. And I'm just watching this. And then at the very bottom, you've got, okay, here's a place where it's already targeted. You've got your Tanium action, a package that you've designed. Yeah, I'm guessing that's PowerShell, VB script, shell script, all the Python, whatever you've, programmed your things in the past, right?
I have to applaud our engineers because this is very technical. Actually, as you mentioned that, Ashley, I wanted to call out something else. Um, I've had customers ask me, hey, is any of this traveling on the linear chain? No, it is not. A lot of this is done through we're decking into the endpoint. Nothing is traveling across the linear chain. As you mentioned, Ashley, in the finalization step, we are cleaning out the private key from the Tanium secrets service. So none of this is traveling on the linear chain. And I do think that's an important mention.
Well, Ashley just mentioned workbenches, which unlocked a core memory for me. I completely forgot we used to call them workbenches.
Yeah, let me go ahead and show you guys as this is loading what the activity log is like. So in the activity log, this is basically keeping track of all of your historical replacements. So this is what's still running. This is the one that we just performed. And it shows you at a glance, like this is still in progress as that new certificate is making its way out. And there was a bundle. There are actually 3 certificates. So when this flips to finalized, I will know that it's done.
Does the caret next to this action, this status, show us a running log of what's going on?
It
No.
does too.
Oh,
So we talked about boxes earlier. We show you everything one more time. So we'll show you the distribution status. You guys know we passed that successfully. If you wanted to see the CSR details, that's in here, the original certificate details, and then where it has been deployed to, distributed to, which we know was complete. We're just waiting on the configuration step now.
copy that.
Okay, so in my activity log, I see that the status is finished. Tanium has successfully picked up the new certificate on audit, and I've finalized that last step. Where else would I know that this has been replaced? If I go back to our inventory, let me search for that certificate, CM, and I know that that was from the demo issuing. So here's the new certificate. And sure enough, it expires 1 year from today, shows as green. So it has been successfully picked up by the audit and replaced the prior certificate.
Laura, that's fantastic. I know how complex of a process this can be as a whole, even back when I was trying to do it, in CLI format. So this is incredible so far.
There is more to come that we're excited about in terms of improvements we want to make. So if folks are interested, come stop by Converge next month. If you're going to be there in November, we will have a lab around this so you can experiment with it yourself. It is in GA for cloud customers, and set up a call. We'd love to talk live, get your thoughts, and show you our future roadmap.
Yeah, this is amazing. As far as I realize there are other more mature solutions out there, but for doing this in the Tanium platform with a single agent, it's already there. You've got the walkthrough here. I'm curious, what are you hearing from customers who've adopted this already?
Yeah. So for one, in terms of the fact that we can replace this at scale, that's huge. So you're not having to manually go and RDP into every device when you have wildcards. So that's one. Two, You know what's on my mind? Everyone talks about automation. So, we're excited to kind of see what's the next iteration of the replacement process and what that could look like. This was our first initial pass as break glass, but there's a lot more coming. So again, would love to chat with folks and kind of show you guys what we're thinking comes next. But either way, I'll be back on your show to talk about it.
Well,
That is
thank you.
amazing. And that's actually like one of the first things I was thinking. I'm a forever optimist, right? And I'm looking forward to the future. And with our introduction of Automate and our Ask agent, I was like, oh man, where is this going? But we can talk about that at a later date. Thank you, Laura, so much for demoing for us today, Certificate Manager. It's very exciting stuff. I'm super excited to learn more about it at Converge. Even I'll come talk to you personally. Thank you, viewers, for joining us today. We've got a link in the show notes for another episode where Lucas actually tells the story of how this module saved Tanium internally. It's a super fun story. Please check it out after this show. And once again, as always, we down below we're going to have our resource links, our docs, our knowledge-based articles, that internal story, and I hope to see you at Converge. Until next time.
Go Tanium.